What's up, everyone? The weekend is here, so crack a cold one and let's get on with it.
That was the worst thing I've heard in a long time. Or since I hosted the show last week, actually.
This is Shane Satterfield, editor-in-chief of GameTrailers.com, and I'm here today to admit I have a problem. My problem is Monster Hunter. I am hopelessly addicted to that game. I'm rolling up on about 50 hours of play so far. I'm at hero rank 13 only.
How big are your mags?
My mags? They don't have mags in that game.
Pass.
Although the reason I am addicted to that game is because it is eerily similar to Phantasy Star Online. But, you know, I've been told the first step to solving a problem is admitting you have it, and I definitely have a problem with Monster Hunter. Speaking of which, it's been nice to rekindle my friendship with my Nintendo Wii. First Mario, you know, I'm still playing that. I'm up to almost 100 stars at this point. Damiani, you scoff at that, of course. But, because you're at what number are you at now?
242.
So you only have a couple left. Are you done?
no,
You finished
that's
it?
done.
That's all of them.
That's all of them.
Was the last Galaxy bullshit, or was it actually worth unlocking?
I honestly thought it was bullshit. It's just a. Oh, you don't want to hear it, do you?
No.
Okay. I thought it.
I don't think we want to
It
spoil
wasn't
it.
on the magnitude of the first Galaxy. We'll just say that.
Gotcha. So E3 is right around the corner. I got to say I was away at Judges Week last week, checking out a ton of games. By the way, excellent job holding down the hosting duty, Stevens, while I was out. But basically what it accomplished last week going to all these events was it just got me mega pumped. I think this is going to be an awesome E3. Now, generally at these Judges events, they don't show sort of the games that they're going to debut at the show. A lot of it's known quantities, maybe one or two surprises here and there. But the level of quality, the stuff that I saw that's already known about was really high. Definitely saw some cool stuff. We'll talk about that a little later. Also want to mention at E3, we will be doing an Invisible Walls like we did last year. It'll be right after the press conferences. I think it's our most popular show ever as far as video views are concerned. So it will be a shorter show.
I think we talked a lot of shit.
We did. It will be a shorter show, but we will definitely deliver one for you guys during the week of E3. And with that, let's get on with the show. As you already heard, Ryan Stevens is here.
Yo-yo.
Justin Spear is here.
Yo.
Mike Damiani is here.
Hey.
Daniel Bloodworth is there.
Heyo.
All right, first we're going to talk about a game. Have you guys seen the commercial for this game, by the way?
It's awesome, yeah.
It's like they do a spoof of Mario Kart, and like all the people kind of jump off the carts and go over to the fence, and they see like these real cars racing by, and it's I guess it's awesome. Maybe-
I don't like it.
Yeah.
It
It's a
reminds me
little
when
dumb.
like Microsoft made that Flash video for the like Xbox One, where
Right.
it was like a Marine killing off like what was supposed to be like Mario, kind of like a mascotty sort of guy.
I like the idea. I think we've talked on the show before about how we hate how companies don't go after each other anymore. So I kind of like it in that regard. I don't think it's particularly clever, but memorable probably. I think people will remember it.
I like the guy's voice.
Oh, speaking of which,
Shut
the
up,
game we're-
Pinky.
Well, it's
the
like
game we're
Toad.
talking
Because
about-
Toad is just a jerk.
Yeah.
You know? Mario Kart or Mario Golf, he's just an asshole, and that's like his natural. Yeah.
By the way, we are talking about Blur, if you haven't figured it out by now. Activision's power-up based racer for multiple platforms. And here to talk to us about that game is Daniel Blurworth.
Yeah, as expected, it totally blows, right? No, actually, it doesn't. That was a big surprise.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
big 180 on this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
initially you seemed kind of down on that.
Everyone
Huh.
was.
yeah.
I don't know. I just played it like a tiny bit, and I played one or two multiplayer races. Like, oh, this is pretty fun.
Yeah, I played it at events, and, like, I thought it was okay, but I kept hearing bad things about it from people, and so, like...
Me.
Yeah. And then, of course, like, you know, as far as handling goes, like, that and Split Second are really different, and so, like, when you jump from Split Second into that, like, at first, like, it's like, what in the world's going on? And you're with the slow cars again and everything. But then, like, once I started getting into it and started, like, just unraveling more layers and layers and layers, and, like, this is pretty freaking cool.
Now, have you played Project Gotham, any of the prior games?
No, I hadn't.
You haven't. I was going to ask you if you felt like them making the decision to go to this type of a game was a good decision, but...
Did you play Metropolis Street Racer on the Dreamcast?
Dreamcast?
No.
Because that was the first PGR. Okay.
That was a polarizing game, by the way. But-
Joker system.
But yeah, I mean, kind of
Kudos.
that kind of mix between like a Need for Speed and a Mario Kart there, and
Is it as accessible as a Mario Kart? Like, could my mom play it within a 20
I
minutes?
think so. I mean, as far as just playing it, yeah. I mean, the curves and stuff. There's more sharp corners and things like that, and you'll get better times if you like really drive more like a car and slow down and take the corner better. But you can also just kind of just ram into the corner and fly around it.
So you don't have to use brakes, because that really is kind of the deal breaker between like a game that you're talking about, Ryan, and like a more hardcore game. Do you use the brakes or not?
Right. I mean, even Mario Kart has the drifting mechanic, so it's
Snaking.
Right, but you don't use the brake. You just slap the power slide down and just
Right.
wiggle the stick around the curve. And I think that is,
Yeah.
I think that is sort of the defining factor for whether somebody like Ryan's mom could play a game or whether this is more of a game for people like us.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could get through it, but you're obviously going to do a lot better if you know your car and you know how it handles and you know how to drift with that car, because they're all they all vary with their handling. And one thing I thought was pretty fun was going online and knowing what the course was going to be, knowing when it's an off-road course, and picking something like a Land Rover when everybody else has these little street racers,
Yeah.
and then just blowing past them because they're getting bogged down in the mud.
Why would they be so dumb as to pick like a Porsche for a race like that?
They're noobs, Shane. They don't know any better.
I don't think you have to be. I don't think it's about being a noob or not a noob. It's sports cars don't go well in the mud. It's just common sense.
Yeah, but one thing I think I've kind of talked to death of, I really love having a rear view mirror in this kind of game, because it's, for one thing, it's really out of the way. Like, you can play the game and not even realize it's there, and it doesn't affect your view. But when you need it, when somebody's shooting something at you, you look up and like, okay, and you know just when to time to knock back their red shell, or the shunt as it's called. Or if you got guys coming up behind you, you can just drop that mine right in their face.
Now,
So-
can you hold objects behind the car like in Mario Kart to block incoming attacks?
No, they do have a separate shield item that you grab, and then there's mods that let you do different things with your shield. Like there's one in multiplayer that if you're using a shield and somebody hits you with certain items, you'll actually gain those items
Gotcha.
and grab them. So a lot of different things like that. Going deep into the multiplayer, like, I was pretty impressed that they have like the Smash Brothers style thing where you can turn off and on individual power-ups
Good.
if you don't like those.
Any power-ups that you would turn off for every race?
No, not really.
They're all pretty well
like
balanced and-
Their version of the blue shell is it's avoidable, basically. Like, they put out these 3 huge pillars on the track, and it's called shock. And so if you drive through it, you'll get shocked and slowed down. But a skilled driver can weave right around them. There's just enough space to get between them.
I appreciate that. I'm
Although
a big
what-
fan of the blue shell.
What is crazy, though, is when you're in a 20-player race and, like, 8 people grab the shock.
Is it too much, 20 people in a race like that with power-ups? I mean, does it just end up you're just constantly getting hit and
It
slowed
doesn't-
down?
I don't know what they've done to balance it out, but it doesn't feel like it. It's. I mean, there are definitely times when, like, okay, I just got slammed by 3 guys, but
Well,
That's fun, right?
yeah.
I wonder,
Yeah, it's a
are
lot
there
of fun.
enough- just a quick question. Are there enough power-ups on the track so everyone going around gets the power-ups? Or, 20 people? Or did they refresh fast
They
enough to
refresh
where-
pretty quickly, and that's another thing you can actually change in the private match settings, is how quickly they refresh.
It's good, too.
But there's usually, like, I'd say, like, 5 or 6 across the track at a time, and they're all individual. So, like, if you want to go for, say, the shock, sometimes that will be kind of out of the way, a little harder to get to.
Now, they're billing this as Mario Kart for adults. You're an adult. Do you prefer Blur or Mario Kart?
I think, still, Mario Kart is still, I don't know what it is about it. It's still more fun, instantly fun, especially with a group of people. Like, we played some split screen Blur, and, like, even though we were playing on a big HD set, like, it was kind of hard to see sometimes, especially for people that didn't know the track yet. And that kind
They'd
of
probably
thing.
cut down on the level of detail in the visuals as well when you split it up that way.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help either.
And you don't, you never really feel like that in Mario Kart. You just kind of play it as you would normally play it. So,
So who do you recommend this game to?
anyone that would like to go and tear some stuff up, especially Twisted Metal fans, the Motor Mash mode is pretty freaking sweet. Just like a ball full of 20 people running around shooting each other.
And is it a last man standing type thing?
No, it's just points based. So you
Okay.
just keep shooting at people, and whoever gets the highest score will win at the end.
So you've reviewed a lot of racing games over the last couple weeks. What is the best one of them all?
Blur is, and that surprised me because I really thought I would like Split Second the most. and but I think Blur has more longevity to it.
You like it 0.1 better?
0.3
0.3
better.
better?
Wow, that's,
So, but no, I mean, there's a lot more
tangible.
tracks. It doesn't feel old. You know, I mean, I played online for like 2 days. So I mean, it's pretty fun.
All right, next we're going to talk about Super Mario Galaxy 2. Lots of perfect scores being thrown around out there on the interwebs. We obviously gave it a 9.7, an amazing score. What do you guys think? I mean, is this the best? I can't even say it's the best Mario game ever. Can we say? Can we talk
I
about
think that's
it's the
kind of
best
the question.
3D Mario game ever?
I think me and Mike had a minor conversation about this. I think my heart still goes to Mario 64.
I'd agree with that.
I appreciate Galaxy's diversity. I appreciate so many galaxies, but I really like Mario 64 idea of like a small world, like the worlds that you can completely know, that you can
Right.
kind of wander onto a star. There's some hidden stars here, but the amount of hidden things are kind of always in plain sight. Some of those comet coins are like within. I'm up to like 45 stars. Some of those comet coins are like in plain sight when you start the level. I mean, they may not be the easiest thing to grab, but I mean, there's no.
Well, I think that's the idea. If they show them to you, then they're not easy to get. If they're easy to get, then they don't show them to you.
And don't get me wrong, the diversity is great. They got rid of blowing up trash. Now you have to destroy boxes with fireballs, which is slightly better. But I really loved Mario 64, where you get into a world and you have to master it. You have to know every inch to get the red coins. The idea of conquering the level by getting the 100 coins to get that last star was always great. And you could be going for a star and get another one. That happens a little bit here. I know it's not as diverse, but my favorite levels in Galaxy 1 were the ones that were the most like complete levels, and even Galaxy 2 seems to go a little bit away from that, with a lot more little planetoids or even smaller areas. And then my least favorite level in Mario 64 was probably, was it Rainbow Road? Rainbow something? Rainbow Course?
Oh, the last stage.
Yeah, which I felt was the most like jump on a platform and takes you to your activity instead of kind of being in a world and enjoying the activity. Now, don't get me wrong, Mario Galaxy 2, I'm having tons of fun. It's great, but it's weird when you select a star and then sometimes it's to fight a boss, and then sometimes you have to platform the way there, but then sometimes it's like within 30 seconds you're already at the challenge for the star.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Ryan. I think Super Mario 64 is my favorite 3D Mario game as well, and I agree with you on all counts. I really like how it sort of built up your understanding of the level and then would sort of unleash new stars that would unlock those areas that maybe you saw but didn't go to at that point. It felt like it built an attachment to the levels a little more, even though there's so much more terrain in the first Galaxy and the second Galaxy, and like you said, a lot more diversity. I don't feel an attachment to those levels like I did in Super Mario 64. There's still some levels in that game that I will probably never forget until the day I die. I don't know that there's a lot of moments, so to speak, in Galaxy 2 that I will sort of point back to 20 years from now and say, oh, I remember that one level.
And I'd also say they're going away from that, because at least in Mario Galaxy 1, the purple coin challenges, there was what I would call the explore the level for 100 coins. And Mike, you've got every star. There's no 100 purple coins that is basically explore the level. They're all like very straightforward or do something to get the coins, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're all pretty much laid out in like a path for you that you have. It's pretty easy to follow. It's more the challenge is just actually getting them with. They usually throw
Under
a
the
time
time limit.
limit's what
Yeah.
they throw in now rather
Some of
than
those
letting
are
you
hard
explore.
as balls, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone took a few times to get. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, the game's
Yeah.
hard.
And let's keep in mind that Damiani is a Mario
You're a pretty good
speedrunner.
gamer in general.
Oh yeah, I don't want to brag or anything. I'm no Damiani, but I've polished some stars off in my time.
It is a
What?
challenging game, I'll say that. I think it's a good curve, though. I think when you first start, there's kind of hard stars sprinkled in there, and then as you get farther into the game, it gets to the point where pretty much you have to work for every one of them. There were some stars where I died 20-some times before I got them. Some of the races where you had to be exacting and perfect. And after a while, you start getting frustrated, and you don't pay attention, and it starts spiraling into this thing where you just keep dying, and you're like, but I'm still having fun. Why?
dude, screw the flying levels in that game.
I don't have
Well-
problems with those. I had no problems with the flying.
I mean,
Damiani doesn't like anything that uses the Wii remote in this game.
No?
I-
You didn't like the ball
He doesn't
stage?
like the balls at
oh
all.
no, the ball.
But I thought the controls were great for that. It was so sensitive without the Motion Plus.
it works, but like there are just moments in those two scenarios where I'm just like, give me the analog stick, please, because that's the type of gamer I am. Like I like having for those types. I know the difficulty is that I'm having is coming from just a slight issue I'm having with the waggle.
Dominati, did you think the game was difficult or challenging at all?
It was moderately challenging at some points. When I say it's harder than Galaxy 1, I didn't think Galaxy was that hard of a game. I mean, in the grand scheme of games out there, Galaxy 2, it's challenging. It's a fair challenge, but it's by no means hard. I mean, I think you'd be a little bit crazy calling it a really hard game. But like the rolling parts, it's just like there will be times when you accidentally drift your hand to the right because it's your natural hand movement.
You have to return to
you have to
zero,
return
yeah.
back, and it's just like getting back to neutral or just slowly moving. I mean, that's probably where I'm not as skilled as an actual like hand movement, and so it kind of like handicaps me there. So that's why I kind of have a
Yeah.
But then that's why I play games. So stuff I can't really do in real life, I want to be able to have good control. I mean, still good control, but I just would prefer analog control, the analog stick in some of those situations. But they do work. It still was doable, obviously. So
Blurworth. So is this the end all for you for Mario, or do you have a favorite 3D Mario?
No, I mean I would probably still go back to Mario 64 as well, but just in terms of like that first sense of freedom and everything. But I mean I'm still trying to catch up to what I did a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
But because I was pretty busy over the weekend. But definitely, seeing some of the hidden stars, I like that. Like anytime that you think that there's something that looks a little bit odd, there's like a 1-up or something there. Mm-hmm.
I mean, trust me, that game is sprinkled with the Nintendo, whatever you want to call it, all over it. There's all kinds of cool little stuff.
Miyamoto juice.
But I think another thing I missed too about like Super Mario 64 is that it was kind of like wonderment. When you get ready to go to a new level, you never knew what you were going to get. Like the big small world or whatever. I can't remember what the proper name for it was, but that level, like I will always remember that level. And what I'll remember about Galaxy is like a bunch of little asteroids that you ran around in platforming upside down. So I think it just doesn't quite have it may have diversity in the levels and the terrain that you cover, but I don't think it has the diversity overall that Super Mario 64 had.
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick. Oh man.
All right, so in prep for E3, the year's biggest event in the video game industry, and one that will be covered with E3 All Access here on GameTrailers.com. We're going to talk about E3 Judges Week last week. Already sort of mentioned it and talked about how, we get to see a lot of games that are going to be at the show beforehand. And are you guys just going to pepper me with questions here? Or do you want me to just let it go?
Also, did you see anything new, like brand new?
Oh, yeah. I saw lots of brand new games.
So that's when I went in. Tell me all about that.
Well, those are the games that I'm under embargo, and I can't really speak about too much. I think one that the embargo did lift was for Shaun White's skateboarding. I think that's one game we're allowed to talk about at this point.
We can talk about it, yeah.
Before I saw that game, I was like, okay, well, it's either going to be a Tony Hawk clone or a skate clone, and I really didn't expect much beyond that. And they've actually created like a brand new mechanic for that game that no one has done before.
But control-wise, it's kind of a hybrid of both.
Yeah. Well, actually, you can kind of adjust the control scheme so it controls how you want it. But the really cool feature in this is that you can basically draw terrain on the fly. So say you're grinding on a rail. Once you're on that rail, you can press a button, and then you can use an analog stick to draw a rail. So say you're grinding on a rail, you see a ramp or a rail across the street that you want to get to. Instead of hopping off the rail and riding over to that, you can actually draw the rail right in front of you that will grind you over to that object, and you can get onto that object. It works for transitions as well, which is really cool. And you can sort of build roller coaster courses on the fly that can get you up to higher levels and get to the places where you can score bigger points.
So it's like Shaun White is Iceman or something.
Yeah, it is a little bit
Does he
like
have
that.
magical powers, or is
Well,
it...
he's fighting tyranny.
Yeah, there's some like dystopian future where no one has fun anymore, and yeah,
This red-haired man will bring it back.
Wow.
I got to see Assassin's Creed Bloodlines.
Brotherhood?
Brotherhood, sorry. Can't say too much about it other than I will say I was pleasantly surprised. In fact, I was probably more than pleasantly surprised. So I think if any of you guys out there are kind of counting that game out, you should take a look at it. I got to see Rage, which I had not seen in person before last week. I have to say, over the course of the week, it was one of the most impressive games I saw all week. It's not just your typical shooter. With it, a lot of times they have these games that look great, but then you go to play them and they're kind of these generic first-person shooters with monster closets and things like that. There's a lot of thought that's gone into it. It has a very like a Fallout, Borderlands type vibe to it. Probably the best looking game visually I saw all week, and I'm not going to tell you all the games I saw that you can compare it to, but visually it looks amazing. A little disappointing to hear that they said that the PC version of the game is going to look very similar to the console versions, and we did not see the PC version, by the way. But, a lot of id fans really want their games to push their rigs, and it doesn't look like that was sort of the directive in building that engine. That said, though, for sort of finding middle ground across all those platforms, the game looks amazing. Lots of really cool details about it. I was really, really impressed with Rage, and that was one game that was just completely off my radar before the show. Mafia 2, and definitely another highlight. The attention to detail in that game is freaking awesome. Have any of you guys had a chance to play it yourselves?
Hands-on?
I haven't
Hands-on?
played it, but I mean, I've seen a bit of it. Yeah.
It's good, man. Like, they've done a really, really good job on that game. I think, it's going to be the next sort of open world game that people jump on after they get done with Red Dead or whatever, and I don't think people are going to be disappointed.
What is it about it? Is it
Well, again, I'm under
pretty
NDA.
seamless, going in and out of buildings and everything. I mean,
the whole world's open. You go in and out of building, everything is open. It's not like GTA where there's like certain designated buildings you can go into. You can go in and out of them as you please. A lot of the missions take place inside the buildings. I think one thing that struck me was like the authenticity. The authenticity of the game is they've really spent a lot of time going back to the 50s, figuring out how people interacted with each other, what cars were there, what products were there, what advertisements looked like. They really pulled a Rockstar. They really sort of dove into that culture and that time
even
period.
the cop system. I mean, because the cops don't have helicopters or anything. I mean, you can dive down an alley and get away from the cops.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that too. Is it wasn't like this 20-minute process of trying to ditch the cops. I mean, they have crappy old 57 Chevys just like you do. So it's almost better to get away on foot than it is in a car in that game, because the cars are, they were called lead sleds for a reason. They're huge and heavy, and the handling is like, they're just doing a really, really good job. Nice sheen of polish. I don't know what else I can talk about, in all honesty.
Oh, yeah. I just want to... I mean, it looks kind of, I couldn't tell, like, what makes this different than, like, the first Mafia, which was, I guess,
Well,
solid game. I think this game is going to eclipse the first Mafia. So if people liked that game, I think they're going to enjoy this one even more.
There were some judges events that were semi-open to non-judges. I got to see some of the Ubi stuff that basically you covered. I'll say, without going into details, some of the Ubi stuff's just kind of weird. Not like crazy, but just some weird touches to some things.
Well, I think Ubisoft's lineup in general, they really, and it sounds to me like you have a different perspective on it than I do. I look at that as good. Like, I don't say it's weird. I say it's innovative.
Weird's fine. It's
just
pushing it's a little quirky.
See, again, a negative connotation. I disagree. I would not.
I would also describe myself as weird and quirky. So I'm not self-loathing. We went to EA3, which was greatly diminished. It was almost all sports games.
You guys love that.
Yeah. There was a couple of Xbox Live Arcade games, and everything else was sports and APB.
I will say this: Madden looks awesome. I can't talk about some of the features that they've incorporated, but they have really flipped the script on some of it. But the one thing I can talk about is some things that they've announced already, which is automatic play calling. I know a lot of people were like, "Wait, I want to call my own plays." But it's all about prep. So you're just like an NFL coach. You have these scenarios, and you can say, okay, on second down with 6 yards to go, what plays do I want to have to choose from? So you can kind of like prefab how you're going to go through a game. And literally, I went through a whole game of Madden in about 10 minutes. I mean, it completely cuts the time to play a game by like 10 times over. So I was a little skeptical. I'm like, I don't know. I really want to call my own plays, but because you can set up what plays the computer sort of calls for you automatically in certain scenarios, you still have that level of control. You just don't have to sort of do it in-game as much as you did before. So I was pretty impressed with Madden.
And I forgot, there is one licensed property from EA that's non-sports that people are going to go, what, when they see it.
So anyway,
it's a game.
I did go to Namco, and that was open, and we got to see, I think the biggest one there was Enslaved. It was there. Updated look at it.
It was a game.
That's a good way to describe it. It was there. It was a game.
Monkey.
A lot of Wii games there, I will say.
Yeah.
They're more active. Those type of games were there.
Well, I think
majority of the games were there.
Yeah, I mean, Namco's a little bit more casual in Japan, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I think in general across the week, it was just, there weren't a lot of Wii games, really. I mean, you would see that, each publisher would have maybe one or two token games, and one would be like this crazy casual thing, and one might be something they consider like a AAA game, or their one like Wii project that they're hanging their hat on. But the rest of it, you go into this room and it's all full of 360s and PS3s, and then there's a Wii in the corner. So I've never seen anything like it. You know, it's a console dominates the way it does, and then you go to these events and it's like it doesn't even exist. It's really
NBA Jam looked pretty awesome.
NBA Jam is awesome.
I don't know if I can talk about it, but I mean, yeah, it's on the Wii, and I mean, I'll probably get that game and play it on my Wii.
Yeah, I mean, I played NBA Jam a couple months ago at an EA event, so I know we can talk about it, and it is freaking awesome.
Yeah,
man.
no, it's rad.
You know, it's not that much different. Really,
it's almost just like the old ones, but that's the point. It's like you didn't screw it up. That's the only thing you would ask.
There's something about like using the Wii Remote 2 to dunk and do alley-oops. Like it feels rewarding to me. It may look stupid or whatever, but it feels better when you slam and you sort of slam that controller down.
Everything I like Mad World or something. As long as you have like a pretty simple motion and it's gratifying,
and you can count on it working every time.
Yeah, it's a simple thing. You know, you can have fun with it. But yeah, you can still use traditional controls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But folks, honestly, like this E3 is going to be really, really sweet. Like I said, all the games that I saw, or most of them, were known quantities. Most of those games are looking really, really good. So, you know, don't sort of blow that stuff off during our E3 coverage. Definitely check it out. Obviously, you're going to want to see all the big, hot new releases, debuts, etc. But make sure you check out some of what you might consider the B-grade stuff, because I think you might be surprised.
Outnumbered by enemies? No problem. Even the score by deploying this remote-controlled orb. Once activated, you can steer it around the battlefield and wipe out the whole lot of them.
So the big news this week.
So the big news this week is that Insomniac is now creating games for other platforms. Of course, you guys know that they created the Ratchet & Clank franchise, Resistance, Spyro the Dragon back in the day. All those games have been exclusively for Sony platforms. Now they've announced they're also making games for the Xbox 360. I know there's many a Sony fan that is not happy about this news, but how do you guys feel about it?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm one of the people that, like, I'd rather have games on all the platforms, honestly.
Yeah, you can pick, you know, whichever.
Yeah, it's more freedom than me.
Well, I feel like it's not really that big of a change. I was a little irked at the Kotaku image with the Clank with the Xbox symbol, because I'm like, that's not actually happening.
Right, and just to clarify, all those franchises that have been on Sony platforms are staying on Sony platforms. Insomniac is actually creating a new IP for their partnership with EA, which I can't wait to see.
I like when developers have more power. It's weird as more and more developers are just being bought by companies year after year after year, and then publishers are even getting smaller. It seems like even publishers are getting smaller and smaller with the rising cost of how much they can put out. So it's cool when developers can actually take a stand. Like, I'm sure I'm not the only one here who forgot that they weren't actually owned by Sony at this point.
I think it's cool to see them get off the sequel train. I mean, once you're sort of embedded with that one publisher, it's like, okay, when's the next Ratchet coming out? Okay, when is Resistance going to be done? It's like working with EA gives them a chance to really spread their wings. We haven't seen a new franchise from these guys since Resistance, so...
We probably had enough Ratchet at this point anyway, I mean...
Yeah, I think they started to reach...
Not that they're bad games or anything, but...
No, they're great games, but I think they've reached the point of diminishing returns. And there are some really, really creative people working over
and
Insomniac.
Happy people. Like, isn't Insomniac like one of the best
rated
places
to work in the United States or California?
Yeah.
California.
They always get the best award.
Which I can see. Like, I love Ted Price.
Which is insane. Have you been to Burbank?
I know. I mean, I'm a journalist and all, and I try to stay pretty even-keeled with, like, the people I talk to and the publishers and the developers. But, I mean, I can honestly tell you, I love Ted Price. Like,
Man crush?
I guess that's what you call it. Like, I love the way he runs his business. I love the way he treats the people that work for him. I love the way he treats us, in all honesty. Like, you know, when we go to interview that guy, it's not like, all right, let's get this done.
He thanks you at the end of the interview.
He thanks you at the end of the interview. The guy is smart as a whip. Like, the stuff that he remembers about me when I go to interview him, I'm like, dude, like, how did you remember I told you that? Like, he is just a very personable, awesome guy. I'm glad their company has a lot of success. And talk about success, how about EA Partners? I mean, this has been quite a coup for them. You know, they get Insomniac to start making games for them, which is freaking huge. Mikami is working on a game for them.
Which
and then
I really want to see. I mean, it's been over a year now, right?
That's starting to wonder, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I did see Vanquish at E3 Judges Week. Again, I can't talk about it, but I did get to see and play Vanquish, which is great, which is Mikami's other game that he's working on for Sega right now. And then, of course, Respawn going to EA Partners, which is probably the biggest of them all. Quite a year for that little sort of arm of Electronic Arts. But, I mean, in all honesty, it's better for everybody when developers make games for more systems. I know, you know, people who only own one console and, you know, they're fanboys or whatever, hate that stuff. But, you know, I think it also helps if somebody did only afford one console, then they get to play all the games now. It's not like there is those games that are locked down to that one machine. So
I still kind of like the developers being able to push that one platform, though. I mean, you can see that games that are just made for the Xbox are just made for the PS3.
Yeah,
I mean, they do look better than.
I don't know if it's significantly better, though. I think you see that more on the PS3 than you do on the 360. Like,
yeah.
I mean, Gears of War 3, does it really look that much better than a lot of the third-party games on the 360? No. But then I think you look at the PS3 with, like, God of War, that game looks significantly better than most.
Well, a lot of that's also just, Unreal. Is the game made with Unreal Engine or not?
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is that, traditionally the PS3 port's always sort of the one that gets finished last. And I think we saw with Red Dead Redemption that sometimes the quality isn't always there for the PS3 version.
Right.
So it makes it easier to compare those first-party games to the third-party games because the third-party games are built on the lowest common denominator. So anyway, big news for Insomniac. Congratulations to Ted.
Do you think we'll see it at E3?
I don't think there's any way in hell we'll see it at E3, but then again, he did announce it right beforehand, so maybe there will be a nice little surprise. I haven't heard anything rumbling through the grapevine that we'll see it at this point. But congratulations, Insomniac. I know, Ted, I've actually spoken to you about this many times in interviews. If you guys would ever make games for other consoles, you would always dodge the question. You finally answered it. Congratulations on your newfound freedom, and we can't wait to see what you do next. All right, next we're going to talk to Guinness World Record holder, or former Guinness World Record holder,
We don't
Mike.
even know.
Probably the latter.
Mike Damiani on a new feature that was actually his concept, his idea, his execution, Pop Fiction. So far, been incredibly popular on the site.
Oh yeah, I've been very overwhelmed by the response from it. Surprised actually, like how many people were interested and didn't actually know about the first one we did. I thought we were playing it safe with that one actually, but so many people like didn't even know about it. And I mean,
What was it on?
the first one we did was on a secret room from Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. It's a room that you can access. It's called the Chris Houlihan room. That's how you pronounce his last name. I used to pronounce it wrong all the time. And it's just one of those weird like bugs that people like figured out back in the day, but no one really knew how to do it. And for the longest time, I had always heard so many different versions about how you could get to that room. And I always wanted to know the truth, and that was kind of like the inspiration for this feature because there really wasn't any one place with like all the information like in a gathered up together for easy to digest. And that's the problem is,
I mean, this is really what, like, it's kind of like Mythbusters for video games, right?
Yeah,
we look at urban legends and myths that have floated around in the industry about what you can and can't do with a video game, and then we put it to the test, see if you can really do it or not.
Yeah, putting it in video form, that was the key to it, because you can read someone's like essay about how it works or not.
Blog post maybe.
Yeah, blog post or something. Oh, I know.
5-paragraph essay.
Yeah. But seeing it in action is the key
I will
difference.
prove that.
It's like one of those thesis papers. Yeah, here's the methodology we used. No, yeah, seeing it in video form is the key difference there, and that is definitely what we want to hit on. And we got some good ideas in the pipeline for it. So
number 2 should be up by this point, right?
Actually, number 2 should be going up pretty shortly.
And this one surprised me. Because this is the flagpole, right?
Yeah, this is probably like the like origin of like video game myths, jumping over the flagpole in Super Mario Brothers. I can't tell you how many times I had people tell me, "Oh, you jump over in the first level and stuff," and never could do that crap. And I was just like,
when I was 7, the rumor was you jumped over the flagpole and Batman would show up, and I'm pretty sure I believed it. God, I was stupid.
Why aren't there things like this for current games, or at least not as often?
Now we have glitches and terrible bugs.
Yeah, it's like
we also have the internet.
that I think you hit it on the head right there. It's that
saturation.
Back then, that it wasn't easy to connect with a lot of other gamers. There wasn't a way to like test this out with like internet message boards. And today, I mean, people just consume the game so quickly. I mean, it's like a week after a game comes out, like almost everything's known about it.
Yeah.
Well, plus people will just break into the game. I mean, that's how we got hot coffee.
Right.
Yeah.
People will find things the back way.
Once in a while, I mean, at least up to the N64 era, the internet was still pretty hopping by that point. But I think San Francisco Rush had the Alcatraz level hidden for about 6 months, and didn't one of the Star Wars flight games have a pretty big secret?
Yeah, it was Rogue Squadron on the GameCube. They had a episode 1 ship like buried in there, and then they revealed it later on, like after the movie came out or something.
Exactly. I mean, what was it? In the frickin' Star Fox ship in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah,
that wasn't discovered until like 10 years after the game came out. I mean,
Still can't understand why that was in there.
That's real.
I think it was just for testing the targeting system or something, or maybe someone was having fun. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, then there was a hat trick for Mario 64. I mean, maybe the N64 is like the final end of that era, really. There's the coolest one I ever saw is the crooked cart Zelda trick for Ocarina of Time. And we'll certainly do that one, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but that is probably the coolest one that I've ever seen, and one of those things where someone told me about it, and I was like, there's no way in hell it works, and it does work. Well, maybe it works.
Yeah,
we'll see in Pop Fiction.
Spoiler. I think you, Bloodworth, had mentioned before something about like after Hot Coffee. I think developers and programmers got like wised up and started cleaning up their code. So a lot of those things. I mean, there's the average bug that you see, like a quirk. Nothing on the magnitude that we saw in old games because developers are just being more cautious and careful.
Well, also the Game Genie Game Shark. What else are they? Action Replay. Those have kind of died in the face of achievement points and trophies. Yeah. But all those dummy items, like how many Japanese RPGs had a porno mag? Like not an actual porno mag, but just like hentai book, like as a dummy object taken out for the U.S. version. Like 10 of them.
Yeah, at least.
And people routed around with their Game Genies from Galoob, and they found all this stuff. So,
but anyway, Mike, I love the new feature. I think it was a great idea. I think, it's something we can continue to do here on GT for a long time. Hopefully everybody watching or listening loves the new feature as well. A new one is going up or should be up by the time you
see. Should be up by the time you're listening to this.
So make sure you check it out and give us any feedback you have.
We can only replicate this feed on the Super Nintendo and Virtual Console versions of A Link to the Past. After some more research, we uncovered that the room is still present in the Game Boy Advance version, but players can't reach it without hacking the game. So while the more popular theory didn't hold up, reaching Chris Houlihan's room is easily possible.
All right, that's going to do it for Invisible Walls episode 109. As we've mentioned multiple times, E3 is right around the corner. Don't forget our around-the-clock coverage here on site. Also, the exclusive live stream and live broadcast of the Microsoft press conference. We will be streaming all the other press conferences as well, Sony, Nintendo, EA, and Ubisoft. If you want to see the schedule for that stuff, go to GameTrailers.com/E3. Anyway, as we build up the momentum here, hopefully you guys are all getting just as hyped as we are. It is going to be an awesome show. We'll see you next week. Invisible Walls is up and out.